Hello. On 31st of March 2024, the Russian government sent a letter to its Ukrainian counterpart via Ukrainian embassy in Minsk, Belarus. Belarus is still having the Ukrainian embassy working there in that country, and the letter I have taken from directly from the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation. And you can also see this letter from there. I have taken the printout directly from the website, and the letter goes: the brutal terrorist attack on March 22nd, I am reading the main points, is far from the first act of terrorism targeting country in recent time. The investigative actions carried out by the competent authorities in Russia indicate that the trials of all these crimes lead to Ukraine. Other barbaric bomb attacks took the lives of journalist Daria Dugina, who was the daughter of Alexander Dugin. Maxim Fomin seriously injured writer Zakhar L killed his driver. 5 people were killed by an explosion of the Crimean Bridge, and 42 were wounded in an explosion in a cafe in St. Petersburg. Ms. Daria was killed more than a year ago, and similarly, this cafe explosion was also during the heydays of that Bakhmut war going on, and the meat grinder was still grinding the meat. I think that was a time when this explosion in St. Petersburg took place. The killing and mutilation of civilians, including children, was accompanied by raids by the terrorist organization known as Russian Volunteer Corps. They are talking about those raids in which the border areas of Russia were penetrated, and by the Ukrainian forces. They showed that they were the people of Russian army who were against Vladimir Putin, and they were trying to annex these territories. But all these raids were actually crushed by the Russian army, and the organization they call Russian Volunteer Corps has been declared, I think, a terrorist organization there in Russia. And most of the analysts say that basically these are the people of Ukrainian armed forces, and they did it basically before the Russian election so that Putin can have a bad name in Russia, and this can affect his prospects in the election, which never happened because all these raids were cancelled, were actually failed by the Russian army. Then the letter goes: in this regard, the Russian Foreign Ministry has put forward a demand for the Ukrainian authorities under the International Convention for the Suppression of Terrorist Bombings and the International Convention for the Suppression of Financing of Terrorism. So now they are talking about international conventions, international law, and they are taking the name of all these treaties and conventions. Then it goes to immediately arrest and extradite every person implicated in the above terrorist acts. They are calling acts. So it is not just the Moscow attack, which recently some days back took place, but they are also talking about all these things which killed journalists, which killed people on the Crimean Bridge, which killed people in the cafe. So they are clubbing all these things, and they are also saying that their investigation takes them to Ukraine. And they again put, this is a very important thing, one of the demands is to arrest head of security service of Ukraine, Vasily Melyuk. So he is a high-ranking officer of who is head of security service of Ukraine, who cynically admitted on March 25th that Ukraine was behind the bombing of Crimean Bridge in October 2022 and revealed details of the organization of other attacks in the Russian Federation. I think he did it in an interview. I think he might have done it because he might have be thinking that his organization is doing all these things, but only Budanev is getting credit in Ukraine and West. Budanev, who is heading the military intelligence of Ukraine. So, in order to gain some leverage, some good name in books of Ukrainians or by the Western bakers, he might have revealed all these things in that very interview. But now Russia has got the public admission by the head of security service of Ukraine. Then the letter goes, the fight against international terrorism is the responsibility of every state. Now they are saying it to Ukraine because Ukraine is also a state and Russia is also a state. So now they are reminding of their duty. The Russian side demands that the Kiev regime immediately cease any support to terrorist activities, extradite the perpetrators, and compensate the damage caused to the victims. Then they say Ukraine's violation of its obligations under the anti-terrorist conventions will entail international legal liabilities. Now they are talking about law and they are talking about international law. And remember, back in 2002, post 9/11, the United States was also doing same kind of demands from the Taliban regime. Then in Afghanistan, you can say it was Taliban 1.0 regime, and they were actually, Taliban were in the denial mode, and what followed was an anti-terror war on Afghanistan. Though I don't think that this will take place in that very rapid pace, because it was not done alone by United States of America. It was done under the flag of NATO, and right now Russia will be doing whatever they will do it alone. But I think that we will see more such of legal communications by Russians to Ukrainians, and you might even find more names of people of high ranking, including Budanev. But eventually, I think that there is a very high possibility that along with the special military operation, now Russia will go for counter-terror operations in Kiev.